What's up, YouTube? This is Frank Nitty back again with a recap and my analysis on the Green Bay Packers' loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, 34-27 on Thursday Night Football. The biggest stories coming into this game were the Eagles' troubles with their wide receivers and their drop passes, and how they could finish games and win. So they were a desperate team coming into Lambeau last night. For the Packers, it was all about could we play 4 quarters? Will the offense finally wake up and stay awake and move the football? Those things came true, however, as the offense still struggled in the game. Aaron Rodgers was able to effectively throw the ball against the Eagles' secondary. The Eagles forced us to become one-dimensional because they completely shut down the run game, and us having only one healthy running back. Jamal Williams went out with a concussion, and it was eventually carted off the field, so we'll just have to see what's going on with him in the next couple of weeks. But being one-dimensional offense, Aaron Rodgers ended up throwing the ball 53 times for 422 yards. It was a performance that looked like a lot like the old Aaron Rodgers. He extended plays and he killed the Eagles outside the pocket. But despite completing 34 passes on 53 attempts for that many yards, Rodgers was just 5 and 16 passing for 51 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, and 7 red zone trips. The Packers only scored 3 touchdowns in the red zone, despite being in the red zone 7 times. That's not good enough. That's not good enough when you're in a league like the NFL. You have to be able to score and get points. You can't blow chances like that to get touchdowns in the red zone. The Packers ran 8 plays inside the Eagles' 10-yard line in the fourth quarter alone. What's even worse? Green Bay came away with no points from either of those plays. The defensive side of the ball obviously was the glaring weakness, as we were completely enabled the complete inability to stop the run. The Packers after the game are one of the worst defenses against the run, giving up 174 yards per game on the ground, 176 yards total combined from Jordan Howard's 87 and Miles Sanders' 72. For the Eagles, Carson Wentz played all right. He didn't make any mistakes. He threw the ball 27 times, completed 16 for 160 yards and 3 TDs, and all 3 of those touchdowns came in the red zone. That was the key to the Eagles' win. They scored every time they were in the red zone and didn't come away. They came away with a touchdown and no field goals. Zach Ertz was their main target with 7 catches for 65 yards. We didn't do a good job covering him, and it could have been worse. Carson Wentz overall didn't have to do much because their run game was so effective against our defense. The Packers gave the Eagles short fields in the first half and it killed them. The one big turnover by Rodgers fumbling the ball, and 2 special team mistakes. First, a 67-yard kickoff return, and then we kicked the ball out of bounds right after that. All of which helped the Eagles score 21 points before the half. So those are some key differences in why we lost this football game. For the Packers, offense not so much. Aaron Jones, he only ran the ball 21 times and on 13 carries. There was really just nowhere to run the football. There were no lanes being opened up to run through. The Eagles won the battle of the line of scrimmage, and we lost in the trenches. That we got absolutely no pressure on Carson Wentz on the defensive side of the ball, and we had no run game on our offensive side. The run game might have struggled, but we should have ran the ball at some point the last 2 drives. Aaron Jones actually does a good job squeezing in for short yards at the goal line. We should have ran instead of relying on Aaron Rodgers to do it all like usual. We're always, nobody is. You can argue that almost the past decade, there's been no quarterback who's had more pressure to go out and win games for his football team than Aaron Rodgers. Getting no help from the defensive side of the ball, and these damn coaches who have very questionable play calling decisions. This guy has so much pressure on his back in almost every goddamn football game. And when he's not having a good game, when he's not doing his typical Aaron Rodgers heroics, then now all of a sudden people want to start screaming he's overrated and blah blah blah. So it's definitely a lose-lose situation. So as I said though, we should have ran the ball instead of relying on Aaron Rodgers to do everything, who was also our leading rusher with 46 yards. Davante Adams led the way with receiving for 10 catches, 180 yards, no touchdowns, however. We definitely did a good job finally getting him more heavily involved in the offense after the first 3 weeks. He unfortunately came away with an injury, and we just gotta pray that it's not too serious. Jimmy Graham, he rose from the dead, at least from this game, caught a touchdown pass, but he also had some crucial drops. He dropped 2 potential touchdown catches in the fourth quarter. But even with all that being said, we still had our chances to win the football game, man. Rogers' decision at the goal line to try to squeeze it in two defenders was a very questionable decision when he had Darius Shepard coming wide open in the corner of the end zone. So the two failures at the 1 yard line ultimately lost the football game, and while we're looking at a 3-1 record. Lastly, as I said in my last stream last night, the Packers defense is just very opportunistic. They rely on getting to the passer and create turnovers. And last night we lost the turnover battle by fumbling the ball and by getting intercepted at the 1 yard line. So when yeah, and so we were so while turning the ball over twice to the Eagles, we didn't generate any turnovers ourselves. So when the defense isn't getting those turnovers combined with not being able to stop the run, they're not that really good. They just aren't. This is a defense that we heavily invested in the offseason. And by signing both the Smiths, bringing in Adrian Amos, drafting Darnell Savage, we kept Kevin King around, hoping that he'll improve. And I mean, he actually had a pretty good game, against the Eagles for the most part. He made up for his bad performance against the Broncos. So so him coming into his third year, we were heavily relying on him to be a consistent cornerback. Jair coming into his second year, we obviously had big hopes that he would get better. And there's still talent all over that defense, man. It's not like we don't have talent. It's just those guys have got to come together and be able to play better up front. They can't get run over like they did against the Eagles, the Broncos, and the Vikings. And it's not going to get any better when we got to play a team like the Dallas Cowboys, who are one of the best running football teams in the league. So they're gonna have to somehow find a way to get better against run defense, man. So it's unfortunate that we had to lose the game that way. Man, but like I said, the defense just needs to get better, and those guys up front need to do a better job getting off their blocks and stopping the run. Or we have to chalk it up as having yet another mediocre defense that gets torched when playing against better offensive teams. They were completely overhyped the last 3 weeks because of playing average quarterbacks and average offensive teams. And their first true test, they failed. In their first true test to playing against a really good quarterback in Carson Wentz, they completely failed. And it probably would have been a lot more worse had the Eagles been more healthy on offense. So, yeah, that's all I got, man. The Packers are 3-1. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks to anybody who checked out my last stream last night. I'm probably gonna do a lot more of those in the coming future and after Packers games if I had the time. But right now, just 3-1. We got to clean it up, man, and hopefully we can play better on both sides of the ball, not turn the ball over and crucial, get score points in the red zone, and defense be able to stop the run against the Cowboys. Though I seriously doubt it. So right now we're just 3-1. We're still first place in NFC North for the time being. That's all I got, man. This is Frank Liddy. I'm out. Peace.